Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. As you arrived, you found a packet of information on your chairs that I hope you all read because there'll be a test at the end. No, I'm kidding. It's really for you guys to take back with you to find out more about the art department and all the different things that we offer and do here at Chapman. So that's just yours to take, pass it on to children, grandchildren, interested neighbors, etc. That we just wanted you to know what kind of department we have here at Chapman and all the kind of things that we try to do. As the information I gave you said, we're comprised of three things: art history, and graphic design. And while there is a lot of words on the screen, you don't have to read them. I'm only going to cover some of them. What's in the packets says more about this, so I don't want anybody, because I've been in presentations before where there's stuff on the screen and the screens keep going, you're like, but I didn't read all of that. What was that? Was that important? Should I have been paying attention to that? It's okay. It's in the packet of stuff. So anyway, we focus on developing inter and cross-disciplinary skills such as problem solving and problem analysis. You can see in the charts how the graphic design and art program has grown over the years. The kind of green-gray color is graphic design. So I just wanted you to kind of see the meteoric growth that has happened at Chapman the last 10 years, in particular in the arts. When I started at Chapman, we did not have, if a student came to Chapman and passed the rigorous entrance requirement and they said they wanted to be an art student, they could be an art student, and we just let them in. And there were other ways we had of training them and vetting them, etc. As the program became more popular, we have instituted, much like Dodge College has and other universities have, a portfolio review for a student to come in. So no student comes into Chapman without being, in a sense, accepted twice, once to the university itself and once into the art program. You can see in these charts how in 2009 we had 504 inquiries, but we only brought in 23 students. When we moved to 2010, it was 505. We brought in 40 students, and you can see the drop-off rate between the applicants, the admits, the enrollees. And then this last year was 463 inquiries. We brought in 36 students. We are above and beyond, and that was through those kind of recession kind of years as far as students go. We are over that, I believe, for this year. I haven't got the final numbers yet for the coming class of 2012, but that's the way that works. So what is graphic design? Well, the program offers diverse and deep course list, full-time award-winning experts in a variety of disciplines, short-term study abroad courses in London and Italy, which I'm going to talk about the London one today. We have a mandatory internship program for our students. They have to go out and work in the field in order to graduate. Many of our students do more than one internship. We have reviews for our graphic design students at the sophomore, junior, and senior level. So when they come in, they've been reviewed to even get into the program. They spend 2 years with us. We review them again to see if they are doing well enough to stay in the program with us. You see on the screen 3 of the posters, the commemorative posters that President Doty commissions from us every year, and our students work in a competition. They're also over here off to the side, and that is President Doty in our one of our computer classrooms going over the designs with the students. In the boxes up here in the front, if you want, there are copies of all 3 posters for you today to take. So poster number 1 and number 2, the one with the panther and the building, are kind of double tubed together, and the new one, the one that just came out and was released last week, is in the single tubes. But I would love it if you took those and, again, give them to, whoever you think wants them, or they're for you as well. We're an integrated department. Claudine and I are both members of AIGA, which is the largest national and international graphic design organization in the world. This compost publication can be found online, and it's alluded to in our brochures, and that's where we really talk about all the great stuff that our students do. It's a student kind of designed and run publication. And again, those are online for people to see. We have a visual speakers series that I've alluded to where we bring in award-winning professionals every semester for our students to listen to and hear from, possibly get internships from. And again, I've talked about compost, so we're good there. We're individual. Every student that we have, and Claudine and I are currently we only have 2 full-time graphic design faculty, and we have about 170 majors and minors. So just divide that in half, and that's how many students each of Claudine and I deal with personally. So that's what we do there. Internships, again, I've talked about. Our students are required to do it. They're assessed, like we've said. Here are some students putting their work up in the gallery, and obviously being very excited at the level that they've reached. Some of the places our students have interned: Quicksilver, Chase Design Group, Anthropology, Bowers Museum, TYR Sports, Direct Edge Media. Our students have won Addy Awards, national advertising campaigns. We were part of the NSAC win that Dodge College had a while ago. Many of those students were double majors with us as well. AIGA Portfolio Review, we've won Best in Advertising, Best in Graphic Design, second place in Promotional, second place in Advertising. And that portfolio review that we've hosted now for 9 years at Chapman is open to all the schools in Orange County, and we get students who come in from LA and San Diego. So when our students are winning, they're not winning just competing against the other Chapman students. They're winning against Cal State Long Beach students, Art Center students, Cal State Fullerton students, Art Institute students, etc. Our students are competing at that level. There's the medicine packaging that Claudine is going to talk about here in a few minutes, so I'm not going to dwell on that. I've talked about our assessment and reviews, but this is just part of what we do. We look at our students' work. We want to know how they write about our work, talk about our work, etc. Just yesterday, I had a phone call from one of the top designers in Orange County who does a lot of things for HBO's show Dexter, etc. He has one of our alum working for him, and he was telling me, and you guys are you're like the first to know this, that he wants to start an exclusive relationship with Chapman and our students because he is so impressed. And since I'm the director of education for Orange County, I said, well, it would be nice to invite, some of the other schools to do this, because, selfishly I didn't want to do that, but as part of my job, I felt that I should. And he said to me, Eric, I've been to those other schools, and that's fine, but I really like what the Chapman program is, and I really want that just to be with Chapman, if that's okay with you. And I said, that is okay with me. Sounds great. I just had to ask, Anyway, we're interdisciplinary. We have our students work on campus with AdPR students. We work with law students. We've worked with science students. And that's where we're trying to solve visual problems for them for their research and the different things that they do. And one of the most exciting courses that we've just brought on, and one of our other colleagues, Professor Holleran, is blending art and science, and our own Chancellor Strupa is very excited about this kind of mix of art and science. But we have students for the second time in a row going up to JPL on a regular basis, working with the scientists at JPL and NASA, doing artwork with them. One of our graphic design students who graduates this year created an animation based on what she saw at JPL that is supposed to be featured on the NASA website. I've seen the animation. I haven't seen it go to the NASA website yet, but that's what I'm told. So that's the kind of things that our students do. Alumni success, again, the list is much, much, much longer than this. I have another whole board off to the side over there if you want to look at that. We have students who work at so many industries, and I don't know how many of you go to the Chapman website, but it's changing. Have any of you seen how the Chapman website is changing? Slowly it's changing, but I would say check back in a couple months and look at our alumni pages on many of these departments, because I have all the information. I just have not been able to put it online yet because of this change. But it's a deep and amazing list, and it's kind of humbling to see where our students go after they've left here. Okay, so international. Again, we have studies in Italy. How many of you heard Dr. Leopardi speak here a little while ago? Dr. Leopardi, I've gone with her twice to Italy. There's a graphic over there of where I try to help the students learn about the history of what they're seeing. But while Chapman itself is a big proponent of studying abroad, we've now started these little mini courses for our students where they can go in interterm or they can go in the summer and really get an intensive kind of experience. And I'm here today to talk to you about London. So that's what I'm going to talk to next. And if Ali and Deanna, you guys can come up, that would be great. But as things work sometimes, a few years ago, since our program is very intensive, it's difficult sometimes for our students to study abroad because they miss too many of the classes here that aren't offered anywhere else. So we started looking back in '07 at trying to develop, or '06 even, a kind of study abroad kind of course. And Professor Jaenichen led one on information design in '07, correct? And then we thought, well, it'd be great because Australia has a very strong design community. We would go to Australia, and we started working with Australearn and all this other kind of stuff. And through all of that process, we ended up in London. And I say that because that's just how it worked. We kept trying to make an arrangement with Australia, and it's nothing against Australia. We love Australia. But we just kept being drawn back to London, and we made connections with the London Olympics Committee, and they invited us to come out. And so my colleague, who works for us part-time and is a full-time designer, and I were working on this course, and he set up a lot of it, and for 3 years in a row now, in the summer of '09, the summer of '10, and the summer of '11, we've been in London for 3 weeks. Every week the students, and they can attest to this, we get up, and it's treated just like a real job. We get up early Monday morning, they dress in professional attire, we get on the tube, we go to the professional office, we hear what the engineering firm, the urban planning firm, or whatever it is has to offer to us. Our students ingest that information. They then work till 5 o'clock every day. We get up Tuesday morning, they work 9 to 5, Wednesday morning 9 to 5, Thursday morning 9 to 5, and on Friday morning we're back on the tube and we go into the professional office and they present their work to this agency and get that feedback. That's the way this works. And then the weekend is theirs, and then Monday morning we're back on the tube going to a different agency doing different stuff. Now, we've been complimented on this. The people love what we do. We've had several people in London say to us, why don't any of the other universities do this? Why don't any of the even, British universities do this? And I say, I don't know, but shh, it's okay. You don't need to ask them. We'll just keep coming. It's fine. We have been invited back. We plan on going back in 2013. We are not going this summer because London is going to be a zoo. With 6 million more visitors, and they can attest to how crowded the tube was the summers leading up to this. I have no desire to try to, as one of the responsible people for the young people, I don't want to lose them. We've never lost a student, and I want to keep it that way. So the catalog description talks about this sustainable design, and London won the Olympics because of their commitment to not build giant venues that then no one will ever use again, and use all kinds of resources that no one will ever use again, which is what happened in Beijing, Calgary back in the 70s. They're still paying for those sites that nobody really uses. So London came up with a plan to win the games that said, we're going to build all this stuff, but the seats can be shipped to Rio. And we don't need any of this stuff once it's done. And the whole Olympic Village and this whole place that we're going to work in is going to be turned into low-income housing, and they revitalized a whole section of London that was not the best part of London. They cleaned the earth, they cleaned the land, they cleaned the site, they have done all this stuff. So it was our job to then come in, because we're the designers. What do we do? We're working for engineering firms and urban planning firms and that, but how do we help them? If any of you, and forgive me if there are engineers in the room, my father-in-law is a retired engineer. Sometimes they're not the best communicators at what they do. They're very great at what they do, but they don't know how to tell somebody else in plain language what they've done. That's our job. Our job is to make what they've done, which is awesome, understandable. And so that's what our students have done. So here's an example from this last year. So this isn't the class that Allie worked in. This is the class that Deanna worked in. So our problem was, part of sustainable design isn't just printing on recycled paper or things like that. Part of sustainable design is getting all of the earth and everything to be sustainable. So how do we promote and encourage people of all ages, especially youth, to exercise as a healthy way of life? What does that do? Well, it can inspire the viewer to change behavior, which could then lead to sustained and long life health benefits, and therefore not hurt the health industry or overburden the health industry with people who are not healthy. So how do we encourage them to do that? This was part of the campaign that came out. In the truncated amount of time that I have today, I can't show you how we've applied this to buses and tube stations and how it was on the internet and all of that other kind of stuff. We did all of those things. I'm just showing you the artwork that the students came up. So there were two teams that, in a sense, competed for this. The next thing that we did was, again, London won this because that whole area where the Olympics are going to be held is going to become a community after this. It's going to be a park. It's going to be a place where other people can go. So what's our problem? And that's what designers do. We solve communication problems. How do we promote and encourage businesses and investors to developing this area after the Olympics are gone? Well, we have to come up with materials that can be used by the mayor of London on down to, why should I invest? Why should I bring my business to what used to be, you know, like not the best part of London? Why would I want to invest there or be there? So we wanted to inspire and build and sustain a robust neighborhood. And so that's what we did there. And finally, for those of you who've been to London, obviously the tube is wonderful, and except if there's a closure or, you know, something else happens. Traffic is one thing. A lot of people ride bikes. We rode bikes this summer. Oxford Street at night on a bike is something to be done. So how do we promote and encourage, in particular, commuters? Because remember, imagine, and those of you who were here in '84 when the Olympics were here, imagine what that's going to do to London. People still have to go to work in London, but the Olympics are going to be there. But I have to get to work, but the Olympics are going to be there. So how am I going to get there? How can we make people not be grumpy? How can we get people to go where they need to go and save time? Well, London, again, riding a bike in London in the summer, unless it's raining, and both summers that I've been, has been pretty good, although I have ridden a bike in the rain as well. How do we prove to them that it's going to be faster if they ride a bike? How do we prove to them that there are other ways of saving time? This is what we have to do. And what do we do? So there are tube posters to educate people. There are websites to educate people, et cetera. So that's what we've come up with. That was these last year's projects. 3 weeks, 3 projects. So Allie is in 2010, so that's the class on your left, and Deanna was on the class on the right. So what I'd like you guys to do briefly is, one, you can introduce yourselves, but then you're both obviously Chapman students. One of you is a graphic design major, one of you is a graphic design minor. You have other interests. How has our degree helped you? I mean, that's what I want to know, because you're marketing, business and marketing. You're pure graphic design, but also English literature, right? Mm-hmm. And ad PR as minors. So that's what I want to hear. So who wants to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Allie LaBelle, and like Eric said, I'm a graphic design major, English minor, and I'm the creative director on the NSAC team, the advertising team that has been mentioned earlier. So a lot of the things that Eric has mentioned are things that I've been involved in over the last 3 years, and I can say with my whole heart that I would not be as prepared for graduation as I am without all of these experiences. From London in 2010, where we got to work in groups and interact with different agencies that aren't just pure graphic design, but environmental design and sustainable design, things that you don't necessarily think about when you think about graphic design, something on a page. They're all things that when I go into interviews and I show my portfolio, people are impressed with the fact that not only have I worked with these 3 agencies in these 3 weeks, but I've produced work for the Olympics. I went to the Olympic site and I got a great experience working in groups and presenting my work. The spring after I went to on the Olympic trip, I had my junior show, which is our junior year evaluation. That's another great experience that every graphic design major has, that allows us to really evaluate our work personally, develop our own brand, develop our own style. And it was one of the best experiences that I've had since I've been here. I created 11 pieces that really showed who I am, and those are, again, things that I take on interviews and I take when I show my book, and people are just so impressed by not just me, but the program as a whole and how the program has shaped me as a designer. And now that I'm on the NSAC team and I'm the creative director for that, I've got 2 campaign books with commercials, with storyboards, print ads, and we work with the graphic design department and the PR ad department to create this book, and it is just so impressive to work with marketing students and ad students and film students and getting to collaborate with them. That's one of my favorite things about the program, is that it's so interdisciplinary. So I cannot say enough good things about the program. I'm sure Deanna can say similar things, so I'll let her take the mic, but thanks.
And Zach?
It's the advertising team. We're given a client every year, and we create a $100 million campaign for them and present it. And the last 4 years, we have won first place in our region. 2 years ago, we won nationally against over 200 teams. So it's definitely impressive and very exciting and time-consuming, but it's a great experience. I've been on the team the last 2 years. So I won 2 years ago for JCPenney was our client, and this year it's Nissan. Yes. All right, I'll let Deanna take the mic.
I think, to be clear, and again, you guys can correct me, it's the National Student Advertising Competition. So that NSAC is the acronym for National Student Advertising Competition.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deanna. As Eric said, I am not a...
Over here, so not directly behind you.
As Eric said, I am not a major, but I just want to talk to you about the impact that the graphic design program has had on me, and especially my travel course in London this past summer. So a little background, I am a business major with a marketing emphasis and also a minor in advertising. So when I first started my classes in the art department, I kind of thought that they would just be more fun. I didn't really know how much I would get.
Was she wrong?
I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know how much I would really take away from the program and how my classes would challenge me in just ways that I didn't expect. And so an example of that would be just the course that we took this past summer. I love my major and I love my other minor, and I think that just the graphic design program has been the perfect complement to really enhance my other coursework. In marketing, I've learned concepting and research and just how to come up with ideas. In advertising, I've come up with those creative ideas and how I want to implement them. But through the graphic design program, I've really been able to turn that into media, and it's an incredibly important skill, and it's one that I didn't have, and it's one that I'm so fortunate to have now. And in my time in London, I can say it's one of the most practical courses I've ever taken, and it's definitely the most unique. Seeing projects from start to finish and being able to meet with companies that most people can't say that they've had the opportunity to work with, especially people that are, students, people that are my age. And I got to do this, work on projects not just once, but for 3 times in one of the most exciting and inspirational cities, and a really, really unique experience. And I'm so fortunate to have that. And then, coming back, I really got to hone in on my design skills. We created a book of the experience. And when you're in the city, you kind of get lost in the projects. Like I said, it's a lot of work. You're kind of surrounded by just a lot of things that are going on, and to be able to come back and to be able to, work on layout design, it's a really great way to visually reflect on an experience. And so professionally, I've been able to, have something for my portfolio, but also personally, I've learned how to visually reflect on things and how it's really beneficial to reflect on travel and experiences in general. And so I can't thank the graphic design program enough for that opportunity. And it really, changes the way I am able to look at travel and the professional world in general.
Thank you. So I'm just going to start off by saying when I was 9, I watched MacGyver. And after that, I told my dad I wanted to be a professional MacGyver. And this has been with me, and what I'm about to talk about has been with me since I was 9 years old. So this is very consistent. It's a theme in my life. And even though I could not go to Humboldt to become a forest firefighter, I showed my parents that I'm still going to do what I'm passionate about. And I'm able to take design and helping people and doing that as a very practical applied research that I do. So first would be medicine packaging. My graduate work is from England. So I went to graduate school in University of Reading in 20 minutes west of London. And there I discovered design as something that helped people. This is what information design is visually communicating something to the public that would actually be applied to helping them. Two things I'm gonna talk about today is medicine packaging and evacuation campaigns. So in the United States, graphic design, the birth of graphic design is to sell and to promote. It's advertising design. So I'm gonna bring that back. I'm gonna make it cool again. I'm gonna make information design cool, and we're doing that, right, Eric? It's already happening. The thing with what I do in information design, it's measurable. When I say that at graphic design conferences, they're like, what do you mean it's measurable? Usually it's like, it's what you feel, and this looks good because you feel it. But for me, I want to actually talk to the people who use this medicine, who use what we use to make sure that it's doing exactly what we need it to do. So this just shows you, and I make my undergrad students do this in information design, what I can show you and demonstrate a certain package design, graphic design, the before, how it's performing, and the after, how it's performing to the audience that it needs to perform for. And so that's a really heavy support for us, not only as designers, but also as stakeholders and constituents, right, to make it relevant for what we're doing and how much we invest in it. So this looks very familiar. This is prescription medicine. It's been in our society with the child-proof caps since the 70s. We all very familiar with it. It's the poorest designed label that we can find in our everyday life. Would you agree? Yes. And the thing is we're great compensators. So it's not like we see this and we're like, oh, I don't know what to do and I can't use it. We know how to use it. We get through it. But it's because we compensate for poor design. So I'm showing you a professional practice, an applied example of what design can do and how it can impact the more subtleties of our everyday life, these decisions that we all make together as human beings, and how design can actually impact our decision making for the better. So this was, does anyone recognize this? Prescriptions from Target. They have this right now. I'm not getting paid by Target, I promise. This was actually a graphic design student graduate thesis. And she wasn't approached by Target at all. She had grandparents who mistaken each other's medications. And she said, you know what? I'm a graphic designer. Maybe I can solve this. And this was her end result. You can actually pick a bottle. They changed the bottle to make it easier to hold, to make it so if someone with arthritis it's not as painful, it's easier to access. They redesigned the wording. You could see a lot of changes just within this object. And it was measured, and it also performs much better than the first packaging that we see. So being inspired by that, this is the first undergraduate program in our program, the first undergraduate class that actually takes the same methods and makes our students do the same kind of benchmarking with medicine packaging. So this is what I ask my students to do. They take over-the-counter medicine, and they have to pick 3 people who are 25 years and older, and they have to interview them and watch them use these poorly designed packages and say, 15 questions, can you open it? What's the dosage? In case of you taking too much, what would you do? And they're documenting and writing. And I tell my design students, your first design process is that interview. So critical. So they do this, and then they redesign. So if I could just show you an example, a student, Brooke Briswell, she decided to do the Excedrin migraine. This is her summary test sheets. So from the interview, she got information that she needed, and then she went to the design process. We could see the after. So I give them full reins to say, what if? There's this problem. What if you had full reins to do this? How would it look like? How would it be held? How would you get the medicine, right? As a designer, what could we bring to this? So let me just go through a couple of these. So I show you the before and after. Not to say that any of these projects would actually go live and be produced, right, by pharmaceutical companies, but what I'm interested in is the potential, the idea making, the concept behind what can be done, how can we make people's lives easier. And in this, I've never used nasal drops myself, but apparently if you have this, it's like an eye drop, and if you squirt too much, it's uncomfortable, I assume. And so this is broken into individual doses. And so there's a care here, and there's an empathy here in this kind of design. So this is for allergies. This is more for flashcards. Also, they had the reins to gear it towards, is this something to go? Is it a parent who is always doing something that needs easier access, so it has to be smaller? And then this student redesigned, and so they have to actually build out these prototypes themselves. So this is not only the interviews and the content they're getting from those interviews, but it's also about building the actual package, right? How does it fold out? And as a whole, I submitted this to the International Information Design Organization. They have a authoritative journal that's internationally renowned. They did a special issue in healthcare information, and I said, you know what, we're gonna go for this. And I got my students' work, we submitted it to this publication, and it was the only student work accepted as a peer-reviewed journal for this journal. So they have their work published in an international journal in design because it is the first undergraduate making them do this process that only it's been professionally applied at graduate level and professional level. Okay. So switching gears just a little bit. Going back, can I just say, snow training is overrated. I don't know if you ever did that, but I was a California girl myself, and they said, we're gonna go to Mammoth and do avalanche training. And I said, okay. I don't recommend it. And here's another thing. I'm gonna share you this story that Eric knows so well and some of my students. During search and rescue, we had something called swift water training. And as a California girl, I said, okay, I'll do that. And what that is, it's whitewater rescues. So some of you knew that. I did not know that. And so I went through classwork, right? We did classroom time, 8 hours a day, aced all my exams. I'm like, I rock. I'm such a great rescuer. Look at all this. I got A's on all my assignments. We went out to the lake. We went out to the swimming pools. I'm doing my techniques, and I'm just acing everything. The day of the weekend, when we went to Kern River, class 4s. Yeah. This is a very pivotal point. This is really critical for me because this is where my research really changed in a matter of 8 minutes and 52 seconds. Because I learned everything. I knew what to kill. I knew what I would do if I stood up, if victims tried to grab the sides, they would, that's the things that kill people. I entered the water, and I don't know what happened next. They turned this rescue into a code red. They turned a training into a code red rescue. And when they rescued me 8 minutes and 52 seconds later, I not only did everything that would have killed me, stand up, and some of it at the same time, stand up and try to hang on, like everything. Nothing was zipped. I didn't put my helmet on. I didn't zip up my gear. And I thought, what happened? And so this is where this came in, is what I now can call temporary cognitive paralysis. Doesn't that sound so much better? It sounds so much, it's okay, not panic, it's temporary cognitive disorder. So it opened up another discipline for me, which is cognitive psychology. And this is where, when I looked at evacuation design and look at the visual semiotics of evacuation information given to us as the public, when there's a tsunami warning or an earthquake or a hurricane or tornado warning, the local authority says, don't worry, here's your map. And to me, that kind of communication, a visual communication, became so interesting to me. So I just looked at the different maps used across the United States first, and I did some analysis on that. This is for Dallas. This is for Texas. Anyone from Texas? I always ask that. Anyone from Texas? No? Okay, so this is what they would give you, and you're already sort of stressed a little bit, right? They're asking you to evacuate your home, leave your pets, and then they say, don't worry, here's your map. And what's interesting is when you look closer into the detail, there's some really important information. Do you see that dash line, the blue dash line? That's actually the evacuation route. So if you don't know what to look for, looking at the hidden layers of information, the most prominent one is not only the blue route, but the dash route, which means it's all one way, gets hidden by all this other stuff that we really don't need. I'm just going to skip over these two. So Santa Barbara, I don't know how I ended back there. I just sent all my research to all the emergency managers in Southern California and Central California, and Santa Barbara called me again, so it's a great circle. And they said, we're interested in your research, let's apply it to the city of Santa Barbara. And I said, okay, let's do it. First thing we do is I want to talk to the residents. I want to know who they are. Are they parents? Are they someone that has a disability? Do they need a certain vulnerable maybe community? Are they single parent? We collected data from all of these people and we created personas, so we knew who we were communicating to, not just assuming that. And this is just, this was their current map. They said, don't worry, there's a tsunami warning, here's your map. Yeah. And I said, you know what, with the knowing who I'm dealing with, I'm gonna take a stab at the redesign. And so that's what we did. Sorry, just for a time, I'm gonna skip over the charts. And so this is our proposed redesign. More instructional, we have arrows in there, we have different coding. We took out all these detailed information that we don't know to make it first level cognitive reading. But that wasn't enough, because I want to make sure, I think it works, and I'm a designer, I think it works. No, Claudine, let's test it. And my students, we have 2 students, one graphic design student, one psychology student, that are testing and actually measuring what we call cognitive recall. We give them visual, we give them written, and we give them auditory. And we're measuring these 3 formats to make sure, what are they remembering most? And our proposal is that don't give this to the community right at evacuation, give it to them before, and keep giving it so they learn and so they can retain the information, so by the time they're asked to do something stressful, hopefully something will stick to say, oh, I remember, don't use the 101, it might be closed, and the 101 is the major route in and out. And so far, the instant recall method is writing, so right when you're getting the evacuation notice, writing is best, but for any kind of recall, it's the visual. It's the map that's doing the best. So we've tested about 80 students here as a cohort group at Chapman, and we've done about 60 at Santa Barbara, so we're making sure that we're measuring that all together. That was their previous campaign, so it's all over the place, right? You don't know who's coming from what we can trust, but then we said, let's unify this so we all have the same visual language. So they know, oh, I remember that campaign, that's from the city of Santa Barbara. So continuity and distribution, making sure that's timely. What we do is we hear of something that happened in Japan, and then all the coastal cities like, oh yeah, we should do something. And then it goes away, and then we get comfortable, and then something happens in Haiti, oh, we should do something. And so I propose, no, it has to be every year that we give this on a monotonous timeline. So this is just also what supports the map as well. Just shows you, and this is actually being implemented right now in the city of Santa Barbara. So.
Do they do drills?
They have done only fire drills. They haven't done a tsunami drill yet. So, yes, and the fire, they've been really hesitant because Santa Barbara has a beautification restriction. I don't know if you know the city of Santa Barbara. They're very much, just putting up tsunami signs took a year because they said the value of property and it looks ugly, and so. So it took them a year to do that. So this is what the research looks like to test these 3 formats, and that's what we're doing right now. We don't have data, we're not ready to share that data, but just knowing that it's not just design, and that it's not intuitive and ritual, where we're just saying, this looks great, put it out into the world. There's actually support that's behind these decisions before we put it into the public. Okay, I went through that fast, but that's it for us. Yeah.